in loving memory of Jonathan McKenzie, gone but never forgotten.
The king is the most important piece, though not the strongest. He can move one square in any direction. If he is not safe, well then you lose the game. The king is in checkmate. 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 One king, one queen, two bishops, two rooks, two knights, two players, 8 pawns, one board.
Thanks for tuning into the Pawn Moves First podcast, where my name is Vicky, and my co-host Ralph, we talk about, Ralph is saying hi, in case this podcast style, waving his hand. And we talk about chess, and we talk about the show Neighbors, which I produced. It was on public access, where we went around teaching the basics of chess through music, movement, and song.
A little bit about the different kinds of bullying that we may see.
Absolutely. And I brought a sign here. We actually categorize.
Okay, this is Sandra with Ashcroft and Dr. Don Ballard from the Danbury Public Schools. So see, they did send me the counselors, so I wasn't mad at them.
Okay.
Physical bullying, which is exactly that. It's of a physical nature. When you see a child who's maybe shoved in the hallway or pushed around or beat up and their lunch money taken. That's kind of an old school picture of bullying, but this happens much more subtly nowadays in the hallways, into pushing kids into lockers, stuff that's happening at bus stops and in locker rooms and where there isn't always an adult present. So that's physical bullying. Then there's cyberbullying, as you had just mentioned, and that has become a growing epidemic because cyberbullying is done often in the privacy of your own home. So you no longer have to face your victim directly, but you can bully them, harass them by posting derogatory images or.
I'm sorry, Ralph. I just, my daughter said she can always tell when I'm holding the camera, excuse me, because it never stays still. So if you see this going back and forth, that means I'm on the camera.
Messages on Facebook, on other social media sites, texting, harassing messages, emails, and that's become an increasingly terrible epidemic because it really is so much more public than in a hallway or in a classroom where maybe there's 20 bystanders. When you post something on someone's Facebook, you might have 1 million viewers.
Right.
Then there's emotional bullying, which is relational bullying. That is merely isolating the victim. Yes.
I wanted to say something about relational bullying as it may be very, very common, this relational bullying, and many times we see that students, and I think girls sometimes, are a little bit more impacted by relational bullying as they may be in with a clique of girls, and these girls may not treat each other so nicely, but it's certainly, it's almost better for the girl to be around a group than to face the fear of being alone. And so relational bullying can look like exclusion at any point in time, socially rejecting someone, spreading rumors or gossip, and can be very impacting, I think, physically and psychologically on the victim.
Absolutely. And something that I've recently read, it's also not being picked for a team or not being picked to be a partner in group work. A lot of classes now are using experiential learning, so they're going to like group projects. Not being chosen by anyone in the class is rejection, and it really causes a lot of emotional scarring. The last type of bullying we see a lot of, which is actually the most common, is verbal bullying. And that is done in classrooms, on teams, anywhere that children are exposed to other children. And the way verbal bullying works is they don't just make a comment to hurt the victim, they make it in front of other people. So instead of just saying something, directly to that one student, they say it so loud others can hear, like, nice shoes, or where does your mother buy your clothes, or who combed your hair today? It can be just that basic, but that causes like the others such emotional scarring for that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's
No.
just, I'm visualizing that. Who
Yeah,
combs
but
your hair?
it's true. We've all been through it. I mean, if you've been in the school, if you've been in the
Who combed your
school
hair?
system.
That's so wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but
I know this.
combed your hair. Jeez.
See, we're thinking like kings,
Yeah.
and it's funny, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking like, little, you know, that you're a victim, then that's very sad. But yeah, I got you.
Yeah. That's so bad. Excuse me.
Chess with neighbors. The king.
Yes.
Last but not least, the whole point of the game is the king. Okay, the king is kind of special because he only moves one piece at a time, one space at a time. Yeah, very good, Avi. He goes very slow. And like one of my kids said, Avi, he can be put in check, which is a threat. So that means right now the rook, if the rook is here, he's actually threatening the king. The king gets scared and he's got to do something. Okay, when he's in check, he has three choices. He can move, he can block it with a piece, or he can take the piece.
Yeah.
Okay? But that's check. That's a special circumstance. All right.
The king is the most important piece,
I'm
though
trying to
not
get
the
the video.
strongest. He can move
I'm
one
getting
square
goosebumps.
in any direction. If he is not safe, well, then you lose the game. The king is in checkmate. The king is in checkmate. The king is in checkmate. King is in checkmate. One king, one queen, two bishops, two rooks, two knights, two players, 8 pawns, 1 book.
Okay.
For the next time to learn about the pawn.
Yes. And now our stories of being the king or bully.
So that's what with this segment, you know, we're gonna talk about bullying for all of us. We have neighbors here, and we're all gonna tell our stories, and we have, you know, because we have parents here. Joyce McKenzie is here. And she, as a parent, she's gonna talk about her experience with the kids being bullied. And then, of course, we have Antoinette, Michael, and Jonathan, and then they'll tell their story of bullying. Thank you very much.
My story of bullying start
That's
as a child
Joyce.
in Jamaica, going to school. At the age of 6, my first experience with bullying was having my lunch money taken from me every day for a month. Until I decided one morning that it would be the last time of my school days going through that experience. And so I started fighting back. And throughout my school years, I've dealt with it that way. I did not back down from people that were bullies. I stood up to them. And in my adult life, having children, I teach my kids the same thing because it works for me.
I have one from a child. I was in high school.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, he didn't have to ask that question.
No,
Gee.
This girl, I guess she didn't like me. I don't know for whatever reason, but you know, in bullying, you never know why the person like you. It's always their issues. It has nothing to do with you. It's always the baggage that they have to carry. And I remember she said, meet me in the back, because we had these trailers, like most schools have, like for extra classes, they have a trailer in the backyard. And I remember she said, meet me in the back of the trailer when school is over, I'm gonna beat you up. And I remember going to my cousin, and my cousin Joan, who helped get us into Philadelphia our last season. And I said, Joan, this girl wants to fight me. She said, you know, meet her in the back of the trailer. And I remember my cousin Joe looking at me and saying, don't go. And I was like, it never entered my mind. Like she was like, you meet me in the back of behind the trailer. I'm gonna fight. We're gonna fight. And I thought that was an order. I didn't know I had a choice. And I looked at my cousin and said, you know, she said, meet me in the back of the trailer because she's gonna be there. And my cousin Joe just looked at me and said, don't go. And I didn't go. And she never bothered me again. I think if I had quit, I would have been following her orders. She would have been bullying me from that point. Come to the bathroom trailer. Now, of course, if I come in, obviously, I'm her pawn. She can manipulate me. But the fact that the first thing was breaking that cycle of bullying is the fact that I didn't go. And it was my cousin. Don't go. So that's my only high school. See, I wasn't bullied because I didn't go. So I didn't think so I was with it.
See, my bullying story was, I think I had to be 13.
This is my daughter.
No, because this is high school, so I had to be 14. And I think I had only been living in Greenwich for a year. I was living in backcountry Greenwich in the woods next to the golf course. Lovely, lovely place. And I used to take the school bus, and I used to get bullied. And I don't know why. It could have been a number of reasons. It could have been because I was the only Black person on the bus. It could be because I was probably overweight, so I was probably like one of the larger people on the bus. Or just because I just lived in backcountry Greenwich with a whole bunch of little snotty kids, and they just didn't understand how I lived in the same place that I lived with them. And I was a different ethnicity and everything else. Not everybody was like that. I did make some friends, but for the most part, my school bus riding was horrible. I think that's how you usually started your day, was on the bus. And I remember all my tormentors. And before I go to story, I can pretty much say that when you, as a child, when you're going through it, you think it's the most horrible thing. But as you get up as an adult and you look back at the people who bullied you, the majority of them are like the biggest losers ever, and they're not doing anything productive in their lives at all. So you get to walk past them looking all fabulous and feeling all great. And realizing that they never stopped your life at all. If anything, they just made you stronger throughout the time. But as you're sitting there as that little 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, you feel like your life is gonna be over. Like, oh my God, they're never gonna stop bothering me. Like, I don't know what to do. Me, in my case, I was quiet. I was a quiet kid on the bus. I was like the funny kid. So I had my few friends. And it was weird because it was like, you know, there was kids that sat in front of the bus. There's kids that sat in the middle of the bus, and then like the cool kids sat at like the back of the bus or whatever. And they would sit back there and like torment and torture everybody. And I don't know how they zeroed in on me, but they just did. And it was like, I remember it was 3 people. It was like Jane, her brother Michael, and their friend like or somebody. You see how it is? I don't even remember these people's names. Here we are 20-something years later, and I don't even remember everybody's name. I don't know exactly how it started, but I know they would just always pick and like say stuff to me and like throw stuff at me. It was just a constant thing every day. And I had pretty cool bus drivers. I will give it that part. And I remember we had this one bus driver who was like everything you think you'd be scared of. He's like biker dude, beard. He used to wear his like bandana and like drive on the bus and like listen to like rock music and stuff. But he would notice them pick on me constantly. And he would always speak up. I mean, there was a number of times where he actually like pulled the bus over to be like, why are you guys always bothering her? Stop picking on her, that kind of thing like that. And then I don't know what happened. It was just one of those days where it's like a long day at school. You gotta have all this homework. You're tired. You just want to go sit on the bus and like chill out and get home. And then I don't know what came on me. They were just picking. And then I don't know, like the ninja came in or something. I just remember I was like, I can't take all 3 of them, but if I get a hold of one of them, just one of them, it will be enough to just like make the madness stop for the day. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I remember just kind of like flying over like 2 buses to get a hold of this girl. And I don't know, I just went crazy. All that time of them picking and building up and me just being quiet. I just couldn't be quiet anymore. And I just remember my friends even being like, oh my God, Leslie, what are you doing? And then her brother tried to pull me off and her friend tried to pull me off, but I was like, if I just hold on to one, we'll get a point. But I mean, I don't think you should probably let it build up to the point that I let it build up. I should probably like called my mom in a little earlier. Like I did have the bus driver there to like kind of like defend me or whatever. But the outcome was like, I think we both ended up getting suspended from school, and I couldn't take the bus for like a week. And it was actually a threat of that permanently staying on my record going into college. So I had to like stay after school and do work and like all this other stuff. just to expunge it from my record. So when I went to apply for college, I wouldn't have it on my record that I had been suspended for school. So maybe my way was not the best way to do it, but guaranteed those three people never even made eye contact with me like ever again. We never spoke.
I'm
Okay.
Christine Helton. I lost my dog.
Now we're coming to Matthew is doing the interview. That's what the person that's asking the questions, Matthew. He made this special trip to go back down to to Pennsylvania to get the family to interview and talk. And
Oh, okay.
they were very kind. They're glad that someone was talking about Brittany. According to Matthew, after they did this recording, because you'll see, I mean, with not all in this one episode, but as we go through the third season, how they talked and expressed themselves, it was almost freeing for them. And they were able to, instead of, like everyone knows Brittany. So Brittany's out there. So now we did it. So they packed up the family and they moved away to, and from what I heard from Matt, the family was doing good, but it's like they had to break that I don't know, the grief cycle.
Yeah.
Or to share Brittany's story. So we're going to hear a little bit of it.
Okay.
Brittany Rebecca Helton on August 4th, 2010 to suicide.
You mentioned things that you've learned about her as, she went through this struggle. What were the other sources of her pain that kind of...
Her, a couple of her friends, when one had gotten really angry at her because Brittany chose to go to the beach instead of going to an amusement park with them. This person was a bully. She, it was do as I say, and we're going here, and you're gonna go with me, and or I'm not going to talk to you. And that affected her several months before she had passed away.
It was this a friend at school or just a friend in
It was
life?
a friend from, actually from grade school on.
Yeah. So something that spent in her life as always as a bully, or did it just happen as
Yeah.
they got older?
No.
Probably intensified as she got older.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? A childhood friend.
Yeah.
And then you think that as you get older, the bond would be, tighter. But then one becomes a bully. I mean, anyway,
It's very sad. Hey, what's up, guys? LFO7 here for Let's Castle Chess, here to talk about what you should do when your king is under attack. This also coincides with what you should do if you are ever under attack from a bully. Normally, what any organism does, whether they be a human or an animal, when they are presented with the threat, is one of two things: fight or flight. Same applies for chess. When your king is under threat from, say, this rook right here, it'll either do two things: fight or take flight. For example, the rook on e3 is checking the king on e1. So what do? Well, one of two things. You either fight with bishop takes e3, removing the threat of the rook on the king. Another option is fight by blocking the check, the rook checking the king with knight to e2. The knight blocks the check from the rook on the king. So the king is no longer in check from the rook. The last option is flight. Just simply moving your king to d1. Your king is no longer under threat because it ran away. So again, when you are under threat, meaning your king, or this could, mean you under a threat from a bully, there's two simple things, two options: fight or flight. You're either going to take a stand and fight by removing what's attacking you, or blocking, defending yourself from what's attacking you, or you can run away from the threat. King of D1. I'm Aladef07 for Let's Castle Chess saying stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.
Next time on Neighbors. We start with the pawns. You're gonna
Okay, the
love this,
pawn.
Ralph. And explore what they represent in real life as your peers. And there's a picture of Antoinette, Michael, and Jonathan in the orange sweatshirt. And then me, Joyce, Miriam, and Joan stand there, and your friends, they're your peers. Yeah. And Matthew, friends. Together, friends and peers represent the first line of defense in protecting the king against bullying.
Now
Ain't
that I
that
agree
right?
with. Yeah.
We help you realize that you are not alone. The pawns have your back.
Definitely.
We're all dancing in front. We got your back. Coming up next time on Neighbors. Yes.
No, but it's just like I alluded to. You know, you're not alone. There's strength in numbers. You have your 8 pawns, you have your 2 bishops, you have your 2 knights, you definitely have your 2 rooks. Those are like your pillars.
Exactly.
And then you have your queen, you know, your strongest piece. So you have an army. You have a great support system.
But people who are being bullied, I found out they don't see it like that. You'll hear more about Brittany and the family and stuff, but basically they kind of think that they're alone.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. They think that they're alone. So how'd you like that?
That was very interesting. It's melancholy, you know. I hate to hear about anyone losing their life due to suicide.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting episode.
So now do you see why I asked you if you can get YTD, the chess players with the most moxie, for lack of a better term?
Yeah. It's ironic because a lot of the players call him a bully. They said, "You big bully," because of his attitude. You know, he's so braggadocious and stuff, but that's how he is.
Yeah, well, that's the king.
He's the king.
If you don't have that mindset,
yeah,
then what you sitting there for? I mean, if you're playing just to be a pawn, then what's the point?
Yeah, and he definitely thinks of himself as a king. He's
exactly, and that's why I'm glad you're using that. That's why. Can you see now why I opened it up? I wanted to open it up with the chess players and that strong, fierce attitude before we got into to melancholy, and yeah, it gets better. It does. This
I definitely look forward to it. Yeah.
Good. Tuning in to the Pawn Moves First podcast with me, Vicky, and my co-host Ralph, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.